everybody. Welcome back to another installment of the Unwatched Pile in the ritualistic popcorn.
There it is.
Don't that's my side of the popcorn bucket.
I'll take the other side.
You get the other side.
Wait,
that's how it is. I mean, I don't want you in I call it my dig pile. Don't mess with my dig pile.
Well, you like your popcorn a specific way, and I like mine a different way. So this could get complicated.
Well, you know, I'll just get my own bag. That's fine.
Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah. Welcome back to the Unwatched Pile, the show where we dust off our unwatched films in our physical media collections. We pick one out, we watch it, we come here to discuss, and then after that, we go back into the collection and say, hey, what would pair nicely with this? I don't know. We're going to talk about it. Of course, with me, I'm Stephen Billings, and with me, as always, is Andrew Cabral. How you doing, man?
Doing good. And just to remind everybody, we will be doing this now twice a month, right,
yeah.
Stephen?
Versus we're picking it up, man. Netflix. I didn't know they fund this. I'm just kidding. So
I wish.
They said they picked us up for more episodes. They were like, we need more episodes. And
ironically, you say that because their prices are going up. Ironically so.
It's because of this show. I mean,
clearly,
I'm sorry.
Clearly.
This show's budget is so high.
They got to fight back against the surge of physical media re-enthusiasm. From what I keep seeing posts online, people are saying, screw it. I'm not going to pay $30 a month for Netflix. I'm going to go back and buy my DVDs and my Blu-rays.
Yeah.
It could be a wave turning. Could be a wave turning.
I mean, they don't support physical media. That now, of course, we have this little loophole with the Stranger Things. That's a loop. That's not quite what you guys think it is, but if anything, they'll support a show that's about physical media. So that's the closest they're going to get. So that's they're like, oh, we support you, but not really because this is streaming. Because we're back for another episode. I'm going way off the rails. I it's late. I'm drinking this coffee late, and I think I'm a little wired.
That caffeine will hit you like a freight train.
Yeah, it's only 90 milligrams. It's not a lot.
Oh.
As usual, we try to bring on a guest with us, but we were like, we got a little greedy. We got two guests for this show. These guys, I come across their podcast recently, and one of them's been a longtime supporter, and this show particularly is great for this show because these guys talk about blind buys. Blind buys this is like the prequel show to Unwatched Pile. This is the show, that gets you into the mindset of a physical media collector and then just taking them off the shelf and watching them talking. Similar to this show. These guys have got a show called The Blind Buys or Blind Buys, and we have Mr. Jesse Bumpas and Jesse Van Hoy with us. I almost got it.
Hey, everybody. Hello.
All right. Hey, guys. Hey, how's everything going? I'll start with Josh. How you been?
Doing good. I had a great time watching the couple of picks I had time for this show. And then, we've been having fun doing our podcast here for the last couple of months. And so, yeah, like you said, this is a real kind of intersection of what we do and what y'all do. So,
yeah, I mean, there's no reason why we can't do a crossover movie. I mean, here we're going to do this and this is going to be fun. Jesse, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. And I have to say, so I'm the one who was, I heard you guys back when you were on Criterion Now, kind of when you were launching. So was a listener to Chasing Labels from day one, just about. I don't go back to the previous days. I'm blanking on what the previous
Cinema Discovery Project.
Cinema Discovery Project. I don't go back that far, but I do have to say, Josh, this whole venture was Josh's idea, Blind Buys, and so I kind of even thought at the time, like, oh, they're gonna I'm not stealing Stephen and Andrew's. I'm not biting your rhyme. This was Josh's idea. He invited me on,
dude. Everything's
throw me under
done.
the bus.
I'm sure. I'm sure this is already a show somewhere.
I think everybody just does everything themselves.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean?
But ultimately, as long as it's coming from a place of like something you want to do, I don't think it matters. I mean,
of course.
What makes it unique is the people talking about it. Essentially, like you're going to make it different. So,
and a testament to you and Andrew that when as soon as Josh invited me on, I'm like, oh man, this is already somebody's already set the mold for this. It's got to be good. It's got to be good if we're going to follow in their footsteps. So,
well, I can tell you. I can tell. Well, no, I wish we had got you in sooner. If I'd have known you were into podcasting, I would have, because we've seen you in the Facebook group, and I would have been. We're trying to reach out to the community. We're so terrible with. I mean, at least I know I am. Andrew's gotten pretty decent with it over time. But we're trying to interact with the audience a lot more now, and we're hopefully going to get a lot more of you guys on. And I know you've been in there for a while, and we're very much a supporter, and we're just glad to finally have you on. And I've listened to a handful of your episodes, which you have about 6 or 7 out now.
Yeah, we just did our 6th on Night of the Juggler.
Yes, so. Which I was like, haha, that was my favorite release of last year. So good choice. Loved it. I just listened to it actually a couple days ago, and yeah, you guys have a nice. I like, and it's the kind of podcast I wish I could do, because I just don't have the editing patience right now. Nice, clean, edited. I like it. It sounds great. So
it's all Josh. Josh does the edits. So,
what do you do? What do you do, Jesse?
I just show up and talk about these things.
So you're the.
I was going to say it's looking real familiar.
Yep.
Yeah, Jesse's like me. Josh is like Steven. To be honest, yeah, Steven is the one who does all the tech stuff. I would be lost without him.
Yeah, he brings so much knowledge to the show, and in fact, he's seen a lot more than I have. So he suggests things all the time that I've never heard of, and they all get added onto this list I've got going. Jesse recommends, and so every once in a while.
You see these? I'm a little older.
Me too. I got some. Mine's in my beard.
Josh is catching up.
Yeah,
Josh is catching up.
No, he's got it. Yeah, Andrew's got his in his beard.
I started getting one white hair like 12 years ago, and then it just slowly evolved over time. It creeps up on you. For those of you who are young and listening, it creeps up on you. Be wary of it, I guess.
Yeah, it'll be all right.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
We stay young with our movies. Yeah, but guys, if you haven't gotten a chance to jump over there yet, go check out Blind Buys on. I think it's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, right? Kind of all the main places. And yeah, good listen, guys. You guys should go over there and check it out. And of course, hey, if you don't want to watch this on YouTube live, which you should, but if you don't get a chance to, you can find this on also on audio on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And yeah, as Andrew said, this will be coming every other week now, so you'll get more of the Unwatched Pile. Before we jump into the normal programming, Josephine has jumped in with a lot of her own first-time watches, saying hello to everybody and happy Easter, and some new watches for her. We got Employee Entrance from 1935, Tokyo Mighty Guy from 1960, The Art of Love, Mr. Celebrity. I've heard of that one. Telekinetic. Is that a real word? Sidewalls and The Old Fashioned Way. Any of these sound familiar to you guys?
Not surprising.
I haven't heard of a single one of these.
Josephine's always coming in with.
Yeah, I know.
So,
Josie, she finds these movies that I've never seen before. She always finds them.
She works at a library, so I think she like.
Yeah. What's interesting is a library is kind of like the treasure trove of movies, apparently, depending on the library, of course. But they've got stuff that's
almost like a Goodwill for things like that. They just drop them off
and I mean they have the labels there too. Like they've had Criterion going back to like DVD days. They've had them forever, and I've seen many people go and rent them from there and watch them. And that's a good way to just watch movies on physical media if you don't want to stream or whatever the case may be. And it's free if you have a library card. Yeah, which is nice.
Yeah. One more thing I see here that I'm gonna bring up. She says my movie is a masterpiece. We'll see. I'll have something to say about that.
I'm curious because when you get to yours, there's a couple of movies called Ballad of Narayama, and I got confused on a recent episode of Chasing Labels about that. So I'm curious what your take is on this version of Ballad of Narayama.
Well, it's the only version I've seen. I haven't seen the other version. So
I honestly haven't seen either of them. So
great.
I'm going on your expertise.
Okay. Well, let's do it. Well, we're as we said before, we go around and we each talk about our we bring in a first time watch from our collections. Let's start over here with Josh. Josh, I want you to tell us about your first time watch.
All right. So my pick for this episode is Paul Morrissey's Blood for Dracula. We've got the nice Severin set here with Udo Kier drinking blood on the back cover. Super nice. Yeah. So this was released in either 1974 or 1975, depending on where you look. I think it was released in West Germany first. But yeah, this is the second kind of take on a classic monster character that Paul Morrissey did. Right before Blood for Dracula, he did Flesh for Frankenstein, which you would think would be my double feature pick, but I thought that would be a little too easy.
Yeah, don't tell us. Don't tell us yet. Don't. That could have been my thought, but I was like, no.
Yeah.
Just tell. I want to hear what.
Yeah.
I don't want to skip ahead. I was going to say I want to know what you thought about the one bath scene, but no. Tell us your overall thoughts. I want to hear what you think.
Oh yeah, we'll get to the bath scene. First off, I thought this movie was much funnier than I was expecting. You hear the title Blood for Dracula and you think, horror, gory, probably a little like self-serious and stuffy if you've seen other Dracula adaptations. But luckily I had seen Flesh for Frankenstein first, so I kind of knew a little bit of what the vibe was going to be potentially, but no, this really surprised me with how funny it was. Whether or not a lot of the things that I found comedic in it was intentional or not, we can have a discussion about. But yeah, basically this is all about Dracula running out of virgin blood to drink in his hometown, and so he's off to Italy to find more virgin blood to drink. But lo and behold, he can't find any virgins because no one he meets in Italy is a virgin.
That's pretty tough.
Yeah. So overall thoughts, I had a great time with this. I had to watch it in chunks in between feeding like my 2-month-old that I have. And
you didn't watch it while they were in the room, right?
I watched a little bit of it, but she was asleep. So I typically try to.
Yet.
Yeah,
they can't focus on TVs yet, right? Isn't that what they say?
Right. That's what I've heard. What I've heard.
Okay.
But yeah. I had a great time with this. I think the movie is it's campy, and I don't think it's necessarily trying to be, which is what makes it so great in my opinion. Udo Kier is giving just a bonkers performance in this.
Can I say that for some? I mean, obviously this movie came before it, but it feels like through some kind of weird time space thing that he's like channeling Tommy Wiseau, his like cadence and his like.
I see it, yeah.
Like it's weird. It's like the accent is like very
it's
Tommy
that
Wiseau.
Eastern it's that Eastern European accent because I think Udo Kier's from that area of the world.
Yeah,
and we don't really know where Tommy Wiseau is from. He's kind of an enigma. So
I know
could be from Eastern Europe. Could not.
This could be like
oh
Udo Kier's brother from like Tommy Wiseau's like Udo Kier's brother or something. We didn't even realize that or something.
It's Udo Kier, and then it's the guy who plays his Renfield stand-in, like the servant. His name is Arno Jürging. Both of their line readings in this film are very stilted, very like soap opera-esque. And you really have to be in the right headspace, I think, to enjoy this for what it is, because it could have been really off-putting.
But then you also have Joe D'Alessandro coming in and not doing a single thing to hide his like New Yorker accent or whatever it is. He's wherever he came from. He's just oh, there's Joe D'Alessandro talking in 19th century, or I guess early 20th century Italy with his his Marxist tracts that he's kind of spouting, and he's got the hammer and sickle on his bedroom wall. Joe
D'Alessandro playing a guy named Mario, who's like the the worker, not a servant. He's an employee, at this Italian family's mansion that Dracula comes to stay at. It just such strange character choices throughout this whole thing. You come to find out, Mario is hooking up with most, if not all, of the daughters of the Di Fiore family, who Dracula is led to believe are virgins, and some really, really strange sex scenes there that aren't quite as exploitative as I was expecting, having already seen Flesh for Frankenstein, but still just wild. Yeah.
It's endlessly entertaining for me. I remember when I'd already seen the movie, but I wanted to show my wife, who is not the same type of movie person I am. I can watch about anything, but I put this on for her. She was like, "Oh, how bad could it be? It's a Dracula movie, right? Like, I can get into this." And then this stuff happened. All this stuff happens, and then you get to that bathtub scene, and it just,
yes.
I mean, you spend a good 5 minutes of Udo Kier throwing up blood.
It's just
going
on.
I thought that like his eyes were going to pop out of his head. Like there's a vein on his forehead that I thought could not get any more separated from his forehead. Like it was insane. He truly, so Dracula at this point I can't remember if this is the first or second time that he's drank blood from one of the daughters, thinking that they were virgins, but were not. I think this might have been the first time. Yeah. And the not having virgin blood causes him to spasm and vomit and contort and give one of the most outrageous 5-minute performances I've seen. Yeah,
it's worth it. But
the way he also complains about like how oily the food is when they arrive, and he's asking like whether there's going to be any cheese, and how impure the meat is. Everything with him.
He's such a damn whiny bitch. Like the whole movie. Like,
he's kind of like a very kind of like a pretty boy, very delicate Dracula, which is kind of an incredible take on Dracula. I really loved it.
I agree with you, man. It's a different take.
So has this been done before in vampire lore? I can't think off the top of my head. Dracula or vampires in general typically don't even eat human food, but in this instance, he's allowed to eat "quote unquote" pure food,
vegetarian,
like virgin food. Yeah. I found that strange because I'm like, I don't recall any other vampire movie I've ever seen where vampires have been allowed to eat normal human food. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't think
as a strange choice.
Yeah, I don't think they in most of the adaptations they don't really care. They're not even worried about it. They're just, let's just get to the killing.
I was just gonna say, every time I've seen that happen, it always makes them like violently sick.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I'm thinking of What We Do in the Shadows, typically the TV series, where they've tried to eat like pizza and stuff because they live in like Staten Island, New York, and they just get violently sick. So I've seen that happen, but I've never seen like them consume it and just be fine. Or it has to be like pure organic food or whatever. Yeah, and I believe like that was one of the earliest Severin title releases that we talked about here on Chasing Labels, because it came out, I want to say 2022. It was somewhere around there, and that was one of the ones that people were super, super excited about. And I feel like that's one of my favorite Severin releases. In general.
Yeah, it's cool. There's so this one has the 4K, the Blu-ray, and the soundtrack CD. Which I was listening to the soundtrack TV today as I was just doing stuff around the house, and I really dig this soundtrack. It's very whimsical, like lighthearted at times, which is just another strange choice you wouldn't expect from a Dracula movie. It kind of gave the movie like the cadence of a comedy, because the music is so light and kind of bouncy, and like the first moment that comes to my mind is when Dracula is leaving his home in Romania, and there's this shot tracking the buggy as they're leaving and going over a hill, and they kind of lose it as it goes over a bridge, and then it appears again, and the music is just all jaunty and oh, we're gonna go on a trip now. And I think that's when I knew that this was gonna be something I would enjoy, because it just it spoke to me. It was fun.
Well, did you clock who the patriarch of the family of the 4 pseudo virgins was?
I didn't clock him as someone that I knew, but I did look him up afterwards.
It's Vittorio De Sica.
Right. Yeah,
director Vittorio, and I thought he was one of the funniest. I mean, I put one of his quotes in my review because he was just so taken with Dracula's name and how impressive it sounded. And like every time they cut to him, it was him talking about how, oh, it kind of sounds like it's Eastern. It's got the Oriental and the Occidental. He was just really making a meal of like the idea of Dracula's name and how much glory that would bring his house. I thought he was delightful and kind of added to the campiness. That I kind of feel like the campiness is intentional. From what I can tell, like just by, I don't know if they gave him direction to behave like that or if that was just what he thought he should bring to the character. But yeah, I have really enjoyed that.
The little tidbit that we learn later on is the reason that the De Fiore family is so poor and so willing to try to get one of their daughters to marry Count Dracula is that he basically gambled all of their money away and then put up their furniture as collateral and then lost all of that as well, which is really funny.
Yeah, it's a treasure trove of a movie. I go back to it every now and then, and
there's been so many Dracula movies, so after a while you need one that sticks out amongst all the Dracula movies, and this one I think does. Also, a little bit more physical media history. I think both Blood for Dracula and Flesh for Frankenstein are technically part of the Criterion collection. They did have DVDs at one point that were long out of print before that 4K came out, and the other 4K for Flesh for Frankenstein. It's funny you mentioned Vittorio De Sica. I think this was like the second to last movie that he acted in before he passed away. I think he passed away the same year the movie came out, coincidentally. He also, people probably know him more prominently as a director than as an actor, but he was in so many more films than he ever directed in. And I don't think a lot of people are aware of that. But yeah, it's just fascinating. They were able to get like one of the most famous Italian directors of his time, or at least from a modern perspective, to be in this kind of B horror movie that was also produced by Andy Warhol of all people. Paul Morrissey
produced.
Yeah, I would say his name is on it.
Yeah,
because Paul Morrissey and him were friends, so I'm assuming he just put his name on it for posterity's sake. Because back in the 70s, Andy Warhol was pretty big.
I think I saw a quote from him where he said, somebody asked about his participation. He said, I just showed up to the parties or something like that.
That's a very Andy Warhol thing to do.
Yeah.
Same thing for Flesh for Frankenstein. What's interesting, Paul Morrissey would go on to direct other movies. Like in the 80s, he would just do movies set in New York. And they were like his New York movies. So it's funny you brought up an actor who had a New York accent in the movie, because it's like almost like a precursor to the New York movies he would do in the 80s. Which are also starting to get Blu-ray releases now as well. Just an interesting connection there.
Yeah. But I'm glad you liked it, man. I'm glad you enjoyed Blood for Dracula. I was about to say Blood for Frankenstein. He needs blood too. But we will come back around. I can't wait to see what that double feature pick is. But we're gonna move on to Jesse here, and he's got it looked like a little indie picture here that he wants to talk about. What you got?
So I went with 2019's Ham on Rye, which got a Factory 25. So this was a Vinegar Syndrome partner release from not too long ago. I missed out on the slipcover, of course, because I waited a little too long. But this is a film from 2019 directed by Tyler Taormina, and it's made on a shoestring budget. I think it was like under $30,000 or something like that. And that they also had a Kickstarter campaign to kind of help get them across the line. And this is kind of a very, very much a plotless movie that takes place over the course of a night, following a gang of teenagers in a town and their parents or other adults who are in the town, and they're on their way to what sort of looks like a prom situation. And they're sort of like late middle school, early high school kids. But once they get to the place where they're going, it's this
kind of like a fast food restaurant, where they sort of have a bit of a dance, and there's some awkward social stuff, and then something happens and the tone of the movie kind of changes. Did any of you, the rest of you guys, watch it?
Unfortunately, I did.
I did.
Yeah.
Oh, you did, Josh. Okay.
So yeah, I rented it from Scarecrow Video through the mail. So yeah.
Nice. Awesome. So some good background on the people who made this. If you haven't seen Ham on Rye, which obviously I hadn't, but the reason I picked it was because it's from the same crew that made Christmas Eve at Miller's Point and Ephus, which are two of my
Ephus,
yeah. So Ephus was like my favorite movie, like one of my probably my top 3 movies of that year when it came out. It really kind of got to me they do this sort of like weird, well, not weird, but amazingly done sort of like mid to late 90s period thing remarkably well, because I think that's when they grew up, and I'm just being as old as I am, that's like kind of pure catnip to me. But all 3 of these, so I'd been wanting to catch up with the first feature that this crew of guys did, because Tyler Taormina, I think he was like Carson Lund, who directed Ephus, was like a producer on this and maybe did some camera stuff. So they all kind of work on each other's films. Omnis Films is the name of the production company that makes the movies. But they all have share this quality of this sort of just kind of the stories follow, such as they are, follow this cast of characters who you don't really get to know too much about them. There's not really plot lines per se, though I would say Ephus kind of honed in on this, and maybe is kind of like the perfection of this style. But yeah, it's this very loosely structured stuff where you just kind of see these little snippets of the night. And Ham on Rye, I would say, is the loosest of the 3 by far, and it kind of felt like the test case for what they were going to try to do with their later movies. And it starts off pretty straightforward, of like little slices of these kids' nights with pretty normal conversations and things. But yeah, there's sort of this kind of a switch flips at the kind of dance event, and then things kind of get strange and more surreal as the night goes on. And it's almost like kind of these moments of magical realism where you're following these kids around in cars, like older kids around in cars who are having these kind of very strange conversations. And it kind of starts off as this movie, kind of given the age of the kids, sort of like a coming of age thing. They're getting ready to go out on this big thing that everybody in the town seems to go to when they reach a certain age. And I think one of the kids even has a quote where she says, being older is like really good. Kind of talking about like one of the other kids, like older siblings or something like that. But then in the second half of the movie, we sort of are drifting through these parties and things where we see people who have kind of stayed in the town, and they just seem kind of very, they're kind of thinking back on when they were kids and how things were better. And it kind of struck me as this thing of like, don't sleep on your childhood. Maybe we don't need to, nostalgia can be kind of a toxic thing, but when you're younger, when you're a kid, it can be very easy to think that like being older is going to be so awesome. But I think just kind of taking adolescence as this moment in time to be savored and appreciated, and not as sort of like the waiting room for adulthood, that kind of hit me pretty hard. Though it's funny because they hire a lot of non-actors or non-professional actors to be in the movies. Like you wouldn't recognize almost anybody who's in this movie, except for there's like this one of the sort of little vignettes that you see in the second half is at this party where there's like Danny Tamborelli and one of the women from All That, and a couple people from 2 other Nickelodeon properties are just sort of sitting wordlessly at a table, like playing cards or something. So it's like these 4 Nickelodeon stars are just there suddenly. Wow. So you sort of have these 4 people who you might recognize as like, you just have this picture of them frozen in amber as adolescents or kids. And now you're suddenly seeing them as adults, and they're just kind of like, at this party looking like they're having a terrible time. So yeah, really, you have to be kind of in the right mood for something that's, I guess, mostly a vibes movie, where things there's not really a plot. You have to be ready for that. But I went into it being ready for that, having seen these other two movies. So yeah, Josh, what did you think? You checked it out.
Yeah, I liked it quite a bit. The vibes of the movie reminded me a lot of I Saw the TV Glow, with a lot of like, late night drives, very very deep colors, lots of like, sunset colors, purple, orange,
super
even
dreamy.
at the dance.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very dreamlike. I didn't really know how like plotless it was going to be going in. So as I was kind of like discovering that in real time, I was like, okay, I probably need to stop trying to analyze this in a way that I would
you don't even
a
learn
more
names,
plot-driven film.
Think.
Yeah, very few names to note. Really, I think the whole thing is like it's a very soft-spoken, like almost gentle movie at first with just a ginormous like metaphor at the center. And I think it works. I had a really good time with it, and I love the music. I thought the music was fantastic.
It's really good. And another thing that I think they kind of nailed was this sort of like, it was almost like a sort of a Lynchian feel to it of like,
oh my God,
there he is. A Lynchian feel of like the way that some, like, you just kind of like, especially when they're driving around the cars and some of the conversations that they were having that just felt like this sort of stream of consciousness. Like you had no idea what they were talking about or why they were talking about it. But I felt like they really nailed that feel. Also having it set in this sort of suburban landscape that, there's sort of like, especially in the second half, there's sort of a creepy vibe to it, but they managed to do it without it feeling like a Lynch creepypasta sort of thing, which I feel like a lot of people are trying to do now, and it just lands flat. But that was another thing that I picked up on. So I really enjoyed it, and it fits in with now I've got sort of the trinity of movies here, because Christmas Eve and Miller's Point actually also recently got a great IFC release, partner label release, and EFIS. So I would highly point, if you think you might like this kind of movie, Ham on Rye might not be the place to start. Maybe check out these other two, because EFIS I think is really amazing. I think anyone could sit down with EFIS and have a great time, especially if you're a baseball fan.
I was gonna say, I know it's a baseball movie. Our friend Dan Skipallen really loved that movie, and it's one I got to get to, because I did grow up. I mean, I still am a baseball fan, so I know it's going to be something up my alley. And if you're saying it's got a specific type of style that has been kind of perfected in that movie, then yeah, I'll definitely go check out EFIS first, and then maybe go back, because what you're describing sounds like something I would be into. In the sense of like, it's kind of aimless, like it kind of wanders around, and it's not really plot driven. It's kind of like a Linklater, like a Slacker type of, like hangout kind of, thing. I'm saying things I think that I shouldn't have said. But
way to go.
I did it. I do think it's just like the first time I've done that, I think.
Nothing to see here. Nothing to
see. Yeah, Star Trek. That's Star Wars. I said Star Trek. But it sounds like it's down my alley. So yeah. Awesome.
EFIS is great. That was one of the first movies I think Jesse and I ever talked about, because he recommended it to me. And I checked it out and thought it was awesome.
Awesome, man. Well, let's keep it moving. We'll come back around to Jesse to hear his double feature. Yeah.
There's still there's some mystery about it.
Yeah, there's a mystery. You don't know what was said. Andrew, tell us about your pick.
Yeah, so I missed the last episode of the Unwatched Pile because I was sick. So I decided but I had prepared for it. So I decided to stick with what I had prepared for last time. And that is the John Cassavetes film Love Streams. Now, this has been in my collection, I think, since it came out on Blu-ray back in 2014. If I can indeed date myself that far away.
That is a long time ago, sir.
It's because I probably bought it when it first came out. Yeah, it came out August 12, 2014. So I probably would have then bought it at the November Criterion sale at Barnes & Noble at that time. And it's been sitting on my shelf ever since in my John Cassavetes section. And this was put out at a time where it was the first time around that Criterion was playing around with the idea of combo releases. putting in the Blu-ray, putting in the DVDs. They did that from about 2013, 2014. I guess, old stuffy Criterion fans were not a fan of that, and they just wanted their DVDs. So they got rid of that format, but now they've kind of brought it back with their 4K releases, with the Blu-rays included in that as well. I only bring that up because it's kind of a dying thing now where these companies will include both the 4K and the Blu-ray. We've reached a point now where kind of more boutique labels are not doing that anymore. Just that's a little tie-in. But Love Streams, this is John Cassavetes' film from 1984, starring both himself and his wife, Gina Rowlands. Gina Rowlands, of course, recently passed away within the last couple of years, actually. I honestly believe she's one of the best actresses of our time, and this was an excellent performance by her. And John Cassavetes was also an actor and director as well. He was one of those kind of doing what Orson Welles did. He would act to fund his movies and kind of doing that. And John Cassavetes was famously in a lot of pretty prominent movies. He was in The Dirty Dozen. I believe Cassavetes was also in Rosemary's Baby as well. He was in a lot of movies, and in this film, he's acting as well as directing. This is a Cannon film. For those of you who don't know what Cannon Films is, it was this production company pretty much from the late 70s all the way up to the early 90s, and they have a catalog of a lot of crazy things. They were famously founded by who was it? It was Menachem Golan and was it Yoram Globus? Those were the two men who were in charge of Cannon Films, and they basically would put money behind movies that they could make money on, or at least they thought they could make money on. Famously, they made, I think, like all of the Death Wish sequels, the Chuck Norris action films of the 80s. They were behind those films. And they also famously got the rights to Superman and made Superman 4 The Quest for Peace with so little of a budget that you can tell Superman when he's flying is just like a hologram. It's so bad. That's the one with Meteor Man. And they brought back the great Gene Hackman to reprise his role as Lex Luthor for that movie. Crazy. He wouldn't be in the Richard Lester films, but he would come back for that. But anywho, Love Streams. It just kind of boggles my mind that a Cannon film is in the Criterion Collection, but this is an exception to the rule. There were certain movies that were exception to the overall Cannon thing. There's a great Cannon documentary for those of you who want to check out more of that. But this movie, like I said, stars John Cassavetes and Gina Rowlands. But in this film, they are a brother-sister pair. So weird. They are, it's not a romance with them like being, because in real life they were married and whatnot. They are a brother-sister pair, but they've got a lot of issues. A lot of issues going on in their personal lives in the film, and then those issues kind of clash with each other as the film goes along. John Cassavetes in this movie he's a writer, like playboy, hedonistic, alcoholic, guy with a lot of problems, and and you see that pretty much for the first hour of the film. It's pretty much his story of going through all of those issues. He also has an ex-wife who has an 8-year-old son that he's never really had a relationship with. She comes into the picture, and he's got to take care of this young son that he has for like a day, and it's just a mess because his life is kind of a mess. So therefore, any responsibility entrusted on him would be a mess. Gina Rowlands' character is going through a messy divorce. She was married to an actor people may recognize, Seymour Cassel, who was a frequent John Cassavetes collaborator throughout his life and career. He was in previous John Cassavetes movie Faces, which is an excellent film from, I think, 1968. And he was in, I think, Minnie and Mouskowitz as well, another Cassavetes film. But anywho, they were friends. He was in a lot of his films. And he's in this in a smaller role as Gina Rowlands' ex-husband. And they're going through a messy divorce, and there's a custody battle there. So you've got these two people going through familial events, familial issues and problems and things like that. And meanwhile, they are also family. So at one point in the film, these two characters reunite, and they try to fix each other's lives. And when it comes to messiness, when it comes to family members, you can kind of guess that things don't always work out for the best. And this movie really kind of digs into that with these two characters. What is unique about this movie is if you know the John Cassavetes style of filmmaking, it is incredibly chaotic, unique, guerrilla style filmmaking, as it's called. Crazy camera work, crazy angles, just really not a lot. It doesn't look like a lot of polished dialogue. It feels very natural. It feels very much in the moment, whether that's intentional or not. I've always felt that with Cassavetes' work, whether it's Killing of a Chinese Bookie or whether it's Shadows or Faces or A Woman Under the Influence, his movies have always felt so, like harsh reality. And this movie definitely shows that as well. I believe this is the second to last movie Cassavetes ever directed. After this, he did a really bad like comedy gangster film that I think we talked about it on Cinema Discovery Project many years ago when we did like famous directors' last movies, and that was one of them. It was not very good, but yeah, this is an interesting movie. This edition here, like I said, is a Blu-ray, but it's also a DVD. You get a booklet in here as well. Some really good special features as well. For those of you who want to pick this up at the next, Criterion sale or flash sale, we just had one. There's interviews with the executive producer and director, director of photography, and he goes into a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff of the making of this movie and working with John Cassavetes and Gina Rowlands. Really great, insightful things in that special feature. So I thought I would point that out. But yeah, Love Streams. Has anyone else seen it? Has anyone else seen any John Cassavetes work in general?
I wasn't able to see Love Streams because it's not streaming anywhere. I couldn't get it from the library.
How ironic.
Yeah, I know.
It's not streaming on the Criterion channel, which I thought was odd, considering it's a Criterion release.
And it's not in the John Cassavetes box set either, which I have. But yeah, no, I couldn't see it.
I watched it not long after Jenna Rowlands died, and I really wanted to rewatch it for this, but I just couldn't squeeze it in. It was a little too long, and I tried.
It's an hour. It's 2 hours and 20 minutes. It's not a short film,
as his movies tend to be, which is one of the things I like about how much room he gives the scenes to just breathe and like let's just see what happens. So I wasn't able to rewatch it, but I definitely enjoyed it on the first watch. And I made note of even at the time, like I need to see this again because it's kind of hard to take in his movies on the first watch and really come away with kind of deeper impressions for me sometimes, just with how, I don't want to say unfocused, but like there's a lot goes on. There's a lot there's a lot to pick apart, and with his movies I like to really sit in them. But I mean, Jenna Rowlands I thought was tremendous. So I plan to pick this up at some point. I don't own this one yet, but I have the box set, and they need to get a Mini in Moscow. It's Blu-ray out now. It's really crazy because I love that movie. That's Jenna Rowlands and Seymour Cassel in that movie are just going off the chain, like playing off each other. It's a really great movie. I would recommend that one to anyone who hasn't seen it. But another one that's again hard to find.
Yeah, I'm I'm kind of with you guys. Like I'm a Cassavetes fan. I haven't seen Love Streams, but I what you said a second ago about like having to sit with his movies, I agree because because of how loose the movies are and how long they can be and how like you said, not unfocused, but there's so much in the moment that you kind of sometimes have to like even rewatch them to like get what was going on in that scene or because of the time that's spent on them. But I know I'll probably like this movie a lot.
They're like emotionally heavy films. But not emotionally heavy like I have Hamnet next to me. Like not like something like a Hamnet type of movie, but they're emotionally heavy because these characters feel so real that you're going along with them on this tumultuous journey that a lot of them go. Like I'm thinking of A Woman Under the Influence, and I'm just living with those characters in that moment can be exhausting while watching them because you get like involved in their journeys. You're like, man, how much more turmoil can these people go through? It kind of reminds me a lot of this is not a movie I chose, so it's not going to be, but something like a Safdie brothers film. like the modern day Safdie brothers films, like an uncut.
Well, they're
gems.
obviously big fans.
Yeah,
of,
like I feel like those
Cassavetes.
characters in those movies are going through like emotional turmoil. Marty Supreme, which just came out, and stuff like that. Like those characters are going through stuff. And early Safdie films felt like Cassavetes films in terms of how
good time,
guerrilla style they were going.
Good time,
through.
especially.
Yeah, even was it Longlegs or was it an earlier one that Criterion just put out? Felt that it was an early Safdie film. Felt like that. But either way, it kind of feels like that. But yeah, you guys are right. These movies are long and they feel so lived in. You know what I mean? Like these characters feel like they have a whole life and like the weight of the world is on them. And like you guys also said, his films are very chaotic, but fascinatingly chaotic. Like no one else would even dare to do this as a filmmaker. No one else would dare to be this wild and crazy. I think there's a reason why they call him like the godfather of like American indie cinema, because he was doing indie things before indie movies were really a thing in film, in American film at least.
Yeah. Well, and I think this one's especially interesting with the characters feeling so lived in, even though they're playing a brother and a sister, but they're like these sort of, rich artists in California. And it's kind of how much even more than in some of their other movies are they bringing of themselves to the screen, especially. I mean, Cassavetes was like a few years out from drinking himself to death, essentially. It's his second to last movie. So it kind of feels like he was kind of pouring his guts out on the screen. So I think for that reason, also, if you're a Cassavetes fan, it feels like a must watch just to watch him kind of put it out there. So was he in I haven't seen whatever his last movie was. Was he in that one?
I don't believe he was. Yeah, no, because that was, like I said, it was like a comedy, actually, like a spoof comedy almost. I think Alan Alda was in it. Came out like 2 years after this. I'm looking up John Cassavetes now. Let's see. Of course, they give me
similarly, Husbands felt like, oh man, I'm just seeing Cassavetes air all of his own dirty laundry in a really kind of uncomfortable way.
His last movie is called Big Trouble, and it's not like, Peter Falk is in it. Alan Arkin, that's who's in it. I always get the Alan Arkin and Alan Alda confused. Don't ask me why.
Very different.
Yeah, very different. Always very, very different. But yeah, he was not in that, and I think, like you said, he was only in like one more movie after this. He was in, let's see, what was it called? Like King Kong's Faust. That's the movie. And it just says Berlin Film Fest footage uncredited. So I don't even know what that means.
Wow.
But uncredited role for him. So this was kind of his last movie, like you're saying, kind of his swan song, if you will. I think that's the proper term. And it is very, it's very much a lot of himself in that character. I feel like it feels like this character in this movie is very much like a fictionalized version that's pretty close to the real life version of himself in this film. It's really, really good. It is a shame that it's not in that box set. That box set from Criterion has been like a staple in everyone's collection forever. Yeah. And it's a really comprehensive box set. But I think this, because it came out years after that one came out. It is a shame that it's not streaming anywhere. But like I said, it is available through physical media. So you can't stream it, you can buy it. I guess that's a little saying I'm going to go with.
Or, if you're lucky enough to have a Scarecrow radio nearby,
you can rent it too.
Yeah.
Or you can rent by mail. You can rent by mail. They can rent.
Josh. Yeah. There you go.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, either you end up in Seattle, you got to check out Scarecrow.
I know. Yeah. I know. I've seen it. I've seen the videos. And I'm like, I got to. But we got Orbit DVD, so I feel at least I do. Andrew's up north. He's got Vinegar Syndrome really nearby.
Ironically, like Vinegar Syndrome is like 2 hours from me. And apparently Vinegar Syndrome has their own stores now too, like certain locations and everywhere.
Like the archive. Yeah,
I went to the Pittsburgh one a couple months ago, and I've been to the one in Connecticut. And Orbit knows my name if they don't know my face. They know my name.
Yeah, I'm sure they.
I order from them all the time. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's my first stop when I'm looking for something. I go straight to them. Then if they don't have it, I go to.
Is this?
I got a list of
is this an second option, third option commercial or the unwatched? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I know. Why not? If people are interested, because a lot of people, You'd be surprised how many people don't know where to buy some of these releases. Because if they don't see them in stores, which none of these really are for the most part, they don't really know where to go. Sometimes they'll go online and pay way more than you should. But you don't do that. Like, don't go on eBay.
Don't go buy Stranger Things, complete series. I'm sorry, from Arrow, because you're going to pay like $50 extra.
Yeah, and sometimes people will go,
sorry, Arrow. But...
don't overpay for things. Look around and do some detective work.
Yeah, but you're not the only one that has. Like I haven't seen Love Streams. Dustin hasn't seen. Dustin Putman, friend of ours, friend of the show, has also not seen it. Been on his shelf since 2014 as well. Get on that, Dustin. But I'm gonna jump on mine. I'm gonna get to me. As you said at the beginning, there are two versions of this movie. There's a 1953 version, and the one I watched came from this box set here. As I knock all the other Blu-rays out of it, right here, was it Shohei
Imamura?
That's why he's here. It's a box set of three films of his survival movies, and this one I picked because it looked the most interesting. I was going to pick something out of this set, and I was like, the Ballad of Narayama looked very interesting to me, and essentially the story is that there's this very isolated village in the mountains, and they essentially and you see the kind of the visualizations of this throughout the movie of like animals kind of surviving, doing, the animals doing their animal things, and that kind of being paralleled with the fact that these people living in this very isolated village have to, their whole life is about survival. And so in this film, we get led by this woman who's 69 years old. And when she hits 70, they have this kind of tradition that once you hit 70, you go to the top of the mountain and you die. It's the normal thing. And we follow her in the last year of her life leading up to that. And she's spending that time trying to get her things in her affairs in order. She's got all these sons, and some of them are, in better positions to live than others. Some of them are kind of like not doing anything with their life. Some of them don't bathe at all, so they really stink a lot. There is a very comical aspect to this movie that I love that really offsets the very harsh reality stuff in this movie. And I that made it really enjoyable. Honestly, like some of the things that happen in this movie are terrible. Like there's some really crazy shit. There's literally a scene where a whole family gets buried alive, and you watch it happen, and you're just like, yeah, like what did I just see? But then that's, then another moment will come by, and there's a guy having the most comparable to the bath scene in Blood for Dracula. There is a sex scene that's so ridiculous, where a guy's just like he's making all these noises, and it's like, what is going on? Hilarious scene. Sex is kind of a weird thing in this movie. It's like it's a necessity. You need to keep the population up. But you also, we need females, we need it, and so in the movie, they sometimes kill the children because they don't need, there's a very clear metaphor here for how nature is. This movie's about how harsh nature can be, and how, like when you're down to your basic need of survival, you'll do anything for it. And even as more civilized as we are as humans, when you're in this particular situation, you'll do anything. And so I found this movie to be kind of a roller coaster, but really enjoyed it. It started out kind of like I wasn't sure what this was about, like where we were going. I was waiting for it to really dig into the idea of her like going up this mountain to die, but that's really kind of like the last 30 minutes of the movie. The rest of it's like the buildup, and it's really good. Really good. Anybody else seen it?
I watched it. Yeah, I watched it a couple nights ago, and yeah, I was really struck by it. I mean, I agree. It's very funny at times, which I think is kind of almost needed to break up some of the shocking stuff that happens. But then alongside that sort of theme of nature, there's also like kind of presenting tradition and kind of, to me, I felt like it was asking like, what's the point of tradition? Like in some ways tradition keeps you alive. But at times I was also like, guys, you realize tradition's kind of just made up? Because the main grandmother that we're following, who has to go up the mountain, she's like the Don Corleone of this town. She's the one who kind of knows what's going down and kind of is setting things in motion, is maybe the most competent person. But she's like, I'm gonna be 70, so I have to go. It's just my time.
Yeah.
So she like we see her break her teeth at the beginning to kind of make herself seem more feeble than she actually is. And you're like, why can't you just stay here? But it's like, I just have to go. It's my time. And you can't question these things. And we also see, I mean, the family burial thing was very upsetting. But then the even crazier thing at the end is the other guy who's bringing his dad up.
Yeah.
And it's just like the grandmother is very like, very focused and at the top, and is just sitting in the cold, waiting for things to unfold as they do. But I mean, what the other guy does to his father is just like, well, really a horrible thing to have to watch, even though it's done with dummies and stuff. But he's like this old man. And Steven, I had a hard time tracking. Did he escape from the family getting buried? Because it seemed like he had tried to escape a couple times from some stuff. Because like, oh, he'd shoot through the rope. He was a coward. I kind of had a hard time following who all the characters were, because there's several families that we track.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I didn't even track that. I didn't track that was maybe somebody connected to that family.
He might not have been, because
he might have just been somebody of age as well that got brought up the mountain. Yeah.
Because I think there's a lot of them are married to each other or marry into other families, which kind of comes into it. Everyone in this small village, and they're farming potatoes. So there's even like the scene of like they draw lots to see who gets one of the baskets of potatoes, and one family comes up short. I thought it was a very striking movie. It's the first in memoriam film that I've seen, and there's a bunch coming newly. Andrew, who is it? There's one of the slates coming up is a book.
Radiance.
Pornographers. There's a bunch more in memoriam. So it definitely made me interested in whatever is going to be going on with, as always, Radiance digging up gold.
It was coincidentally that Steven was talking about this movie, because they announced 2 Shohei Imamura films they're putting out. They're putting out The Pornographers, and they're putting out Warm Water Under a Red Bridge, which is a more modern film that he did that came out in 2001. But The Pornographers it's interesting when Steven mentioned sex scenes, because the movie The Pornographers is literally about people making kind of these underground adult pornographic films. And it's interesting because you would think that would like show some type of eroticism, be sexually appealing, or whatever the case may be, but it's really not. So it's kind of interesting that he would then kind of reutilize that same type of concept again later on in the Ballad of Narayama, which I think came out in the early 80s, I think.
And I'll tell you this, in this movie, it's not really appealing either. It's more necessity than anything. I mean, and most of the time the women do not want to be doing it. It's not consensual. It's like I said, a need to survive.
And it's almost traded like currency in a way.
And that's exactly an interesting sociological theme. This,
like I said, there's many shots throughout the movie of like insects and animals having sex and doing animal things as like a comparison to like what they're doing.
If anything, it sounds like almost, and now you're Steven, gonna have to stop me going off on a tangent here. It sounds like he's almost like comparing, humans, closeness to the animalistic or the animal world. Like we're not that far removed from being insects or other animals who do similar things to humans, like sexual acts to procreate. That's a natural way of life. You know what I mean? Insects do it, humans do it. We're not that far removed. It's interesting how he's kind of going on that vibe. Also, this kind of almost his criticisms of traditionalism seems to be abundant in that movie.
Yeah, I kind of wish, I would love to know what like Japanese society at the time, how that was kind of how this movie was received in terms of like, taking a closer look at tradition. Like, what's useful for us? What do we leave behind? What do we take forward? What is this doing for us? When I have to imagine that, in the early 80s, they were going through as much of a change as we had over here over the previous several decades. So I'd be fascinated to see that. And I should say Sumiko Sakamoto, who plays the grandmother character, she's also in both The Pornographers and Warm Water Under a Red Bridge, which are those new releases. So she was tremendous in this movie. It definitely makes me curious to see. She worked. That's a really kind of incredibly varied career, long career that she had. So yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was a very fascinating watch, and like you said, it's made me definitely want to dig more into his filmography. But this was maybe one of the toughest double feature pairings. Like to figure out which angle I wanted to go with to pair with this movie. We'll get back to it, but we're going to go back to the top, back to Josh. It feels like we went on a really long journey. We don't usually have this many. Yeah, I know. We don't usually have this many people on, so it's just how long ago is it that we talked to you?
We're at the top of the mountain now. Yeah,
I know. We're going to. Please don't kill yourself, or don't sit in the snow and wait for yourself to die, as she did. Josh, please tell us what you're pairing with Blood for Dracula.
Yeah. All right. I went back and forth initially, but I decided to go with something more comedic. In fact, the name's already been said. It's the original What We Do in the Shadows.
Andrew, see, you messed it up too.
I did. I messed up. But I was talking about the TV show. It's a TV
right. Yeah. So so I picked the movie directed by Jermaine Clement and Taika Waititi. This came out in I want to say 2014. What We Do in the Shadows, as we've mentioned, it spawned the TV show that had 5 or 6 seasons, which is fantastic. One of my favorite shows ever. But this movie takes a lot of what I found to be comical in Blood for Dracula and kind of takes them to their comedic limit. So you have the vomit scene that Udo Kier went on. There's a very similar vomit scene in this film with the vampires, eating something that they shouldn't, and it causes them to vomit blood. Traveling from one place to another. There are comedic bits in this film about that. Finding virgins. There's additional comedic bits along those lines. How many of y'all have seen this original film?
Oh yeah,
multiple times.
Oh yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah,
love it.
Okay, yeah. It's I think it pairs well with Blood for Dracula because it riffs so much on all the vampire lore. Like, there's not a single piece of vampire lore that isn't skewered in some way, I think, in this film. Or even later on in the TV show.
Down to the Nosferatu,
Yes, the Peter character, the ancient guy that lives downstairs. But I decided to go that route rather than something more horror leaning.
I love it.
Yeah. So
that would be a fun afternoon. Now, would you start with Blood for Dracula, or would you make it the second feature?
I think you'd almost have to start with Blood for Dracula because it would be it would be weird to have this after What We Do in the Shadows, because What We Do in the Shadows is designed to be,
commenting,
you laugh out. You're seeing every bit of the vampire tropes, and it's designed to make you laugh. Whereas Blood for Dracula is definitely a bit more. Maybe attempting to be more of a straightforward vampire film, I think, in my opinion. I don't have a ton extra to say about What We Do in the Shadows that wouldn't devolve into like, oh, this bit was funny,
exactly.
Which is the problem you get into with talking about comedies. But just a fantastic movie, one of my favorites of all time, spawned one of my favorite television shows of all time. Definitely recommend it to anyone who hasn't seen it.
I agree with you, man, because I was about to say my favorite scene was the scene where he's got that girl, brings that girl home, and then like busts her vein open, and just like
he's like, shit.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, Really great stuff. And then also there's a bit in What We Do in the Shadows about the familiar who kind of does their bidding.
Yeah.
Kind of a similar vibe to the manservant in Blood for Dracula. Not exactly, the manservant in that film's not wanting to be turned, but he's, doing all of Dracula's bidding, and he's getting tired of dealing with all the humans that he has to work with, and kind of similar thing in What We Do in the Shadows. So, yeah.
It's a good one, man. It's one I for sure probably would. You know what? That's going to be a Halloween time double feature for my family. Maybe let's do it, guys. I'm gonna be like, my wife. I can't trick my wife, but I could trick somebody else. I'm gonna get somebody on that one. Awesome, man. I love it. Jesse, let's get to you. Tell us what we are doing with ham and rye here. Don't tell me there's like some other sandwich reference that you're going to mix with this.
I'm thinking back. No, I don't think so.
Okay,
I don't think so. But yeah. So going with stuff that's in my collection, the obvious pick would have been probably Christmas Eve in Miller's Point, but I didn't want to go with something from the same director. But it has that sort of it's kind of like the closest thing I could say that this is that. But I did end up going with the aforementioned. I thought about Dazed and Confused, because that is sort of like the one night with the teenagers. But that almost feels like that's too much of a movie, kind of a traditional movie in its structure, and that who these people are, you get to learn things about them. So I went with Richard Linklater's Slacker, kind of this seminal movie. I mean, similarly kind of to if Cassavetes sort of ushered in the first wave of American indie film, this was very much at the forefront of the next boom, I guess you could say, in the late 80s going into the 90s. So I picked, and so this, most of you have probably seen this, but this is kind of like one day in and around Austin, Texas, and you're just sort of floating from one little scene of a snippet of conversation, a strange interaction with people, again, almost all non-professional actors, but it kicks off with Linklater himself on a bus, kind of rolling into Austin in the early morning light. And then it just kind of goes from there. And he ends up playing with time to kind of bring you back around to the next day. I think someone goes to sleep and then wakes up to kind of bring you up to the morning of the next day. But yeah, just kind of had that similar experimental feel of following around these young folks and not really caring to have plot, saying why do you need it? Perhaps Slacker has less to say as a whole than Ham on Rye does, but it felt similarly like if Ham on Rye was if you took something like Dazed and Confused as sort of what Linklater was working toward, with kind of focusing in on all these little bits, and then sort of honing his craft to where you could tell a story that way. I feel like that's what these Tyler Taormina and Carson Lund ended up doing by the time they got to Ephus. Ephus feels like really the perfect example of what you could do with this storytelling style of being very kind of loose and just told in snippets, but kind of getting putting a story across without really kind of spoon feeding it to you. But yeah, Slacker is just, I mean, I rewatched it and I had a great time with it. It was sort of interesting to go back and read some of the takes from people I follow on Letterboxd, who appear to, some people think it's kind of like Gen X garbage. But I don't know. These people were all pretty young and kind of dealing with and expressing a lot of things that I kind of, as a young person, felt unsure about. And it can feel kind of stagey with just some of it's people talking at each other. There's a person's kind of given a monologue to somebody who's just in the street, and it kind of can feel a little stagey at times. But I thought most of the vignettes were pretty funny and memorable in their own way. Have you guys, I assume you've all seen Slacker before?
I have not, but I picked it up during the last Criterion sale. So,
oh man, get your Texan card. You gotta
I know.
see Slacker.
I gotta get on it.
But yeah, love Slacker. Would recommend it to anyone. Just in terms of seeing, like, this is one of those movies that, you know, hundreds or thousands of young filmmakers saw this coming out of the festival circuit, and saw like what you could do and what sort of doors you could open up if you just kind of went out there and said, I'm just going to make a movie. Because I think it was about, he spent about the budget was the same in dollars, at least. I mean, now $23,000 now is not what it was in 1989 or whenever this was, or 1991. But yeah, made for almost nothing, and it's still talked about today.
Yeah, when we just recently interviewed our man for Beautiful Pam, in small little independent film for nothing. That's the thing I get. It's the most inspired by, is just how much can get done for nothing if you really like are passionate about film and have a vision and that's what Linklater I think did here. I think a lot of this was just passion, and there isn't a lot. I think for me, like, I like Slacker. I don't love Slacker. I think it is like something you have to really be in the mood for. And a lot of people are not in the mood for that type of movie. I think you could say, in a sense, it's a little bit on the pretentious side. Like, it's got like something that you have to be honed in on to really enjoy it. But I think he hones that style, as you said, better down the line, even with Dazed and Confused, and even better with other films, I think, moving forward. I mean, me and Andrew are big Linklater fans. So
yeah, I would say that it's interesting because I'm very high on Slacker, and I think I was from the very beginning. Because I discovered it.
Because you're pretentious, Andrew.
Could be. Well, I don't think there are people out there who like structure in their movies, which makes sense. You know, first, second, third act, all this kind of stuff, plot and all that kind of stuff. I don't mind movies that have no plot to them whatsoever, or no plot structure, or are formless. If anything, I wish there were more movies like that, because they go against like the traditional norms of movie making, if you will.
I agree. I agree with you. I think sometimes the problem with movies like that is that if you don't have anything to follow, then it can be kind of hard to stay with it. Like, if you're not following themes, or you're not following a character, if you're not following something, it can become aimless. It can become
for example, also what is different with Linklater is he's actually saying things. It's not so much like Terrence Malick. With some of Terrence Malick's films, it's just beautiful shots of beautiful people in beautiful scenery. You can say that for the most part. Not a lot of his films, but I'm thinking of To the Wonder with like Ben Affleck. I'm thinking of like that. I'm not necessarily thinking of The Tree of Life, which has a lot of things to say. But there are movies that kind of don't really have a lot to say. But with Richard Linklater, he's got a lot to say, and you can tell right away from the beginning of the movie, where it's literally him giving like a philosophy, lecture.
No. I'm not saying this movie doesn't have something to say. I'm just saying movies that are like that.
Well, I'm just saying there are different types of unstructured movies.
Sure.
And it really all depends on, what mood you're in, depends on what you like as a movie lover or movie watcher. Like I said, some people don't like it at all. Some people like different kinds. Sure. For me, Slacker, I marvel at it for its filmmaking more than anything, because to structure that movie like that and to make a movie like that seems so fascinating. Like, it's a daring risk to have a movie not only have no plot structure, not only have no real story, just have it focus on different people and have it all connect in different conversations in different areas and different places, and have them all be like one continuous conscious stream is a tough thing to pull off. And he does that really, really well at such a young age, but with, like we were saying, not a lot of money to pull it off. Film is very expensive. And I know this movie went on to inspire a lot of people to make movies afterwards. Interesting you mentioned Richard Linklater, because his two newest films are rather different, but also really good. Blue Moon and Nouvelle Vague, which were both movies I really liked from last year. So he's still making movies and still challenging people with his movies, I think.
For sure.
Yeah. And on this this is, I think, maybe the second or third time I've seen it, but on this rewatch, I felt like there were, if not plot things to follow, but just kind of like some themes in terms of seeing the way, because you got a lot of like young people who are lonely, trying to get relationships going. They run into people that they've met before, and you sort of see the way that these different people are all kind of working through the same stuff. And it's sort of one of the centerpiece. I think there's one scene with an older man who might be the most memorable vignette in there, who's like, his house is getting robbed. He walks in on like a robbery, and he sort of is able to talk the guy out of what he's doing by talking through like anarchists in the 19th century. And he sort of sounds like you can almost imagine him as a young man and how he might have kind of dealt with some of this stuff. So I feel like if you kind of got out your Post-it notes and sort of like put together some of the themes from the vignettes, you could kind of see something emerge, almost like a word cloud, which you could say, well, that's not filmmaking or whatever, but I don't know. You put it up on the screen and stuff emerges. And I feel like I don't think that it doesn't feel like something that anybody could have done. I feel like there's probably lots of bad versions of this that are out there now. But it feels very watchable, and just even again, just from the way that he kind of is able to move from one thing to another, it's always moving. It's like, even if you don't like what you're seeing now, it's like in 2 minutes we're going to be on to something else. And there's also definitely some surreal kind of along with Hammer on Ride. There's definitely some moments that feel almost more absurd or surreal, like stuff that you wouldn't really like. There's no way this would happen on the streets of Austin that I would see this. Perhaps the Madonna pap smear thing being the chief example, like this just sort of very absurd thing that happens.
I love the scene in the bookstore where they're talking about the conspiracy theories behind the JFK assassination. Like, that's something that people probably still do to this day. So there's something very contemporary about it. And there's this, it's been years since I've seen the movie, probably over a dozen years. There's this one scene where someone, I think, is walking around the streets with a bullhorn, and he's saying like these political things or something like that. I thought
he's driving around with a car. He's got the big, big speaker on his car, like from like out.
Like in Nashville.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was really, really good. There's a lot of like deeply philosophical, political messages in that movie, and I feel like you can find those in a lot of Linklater's work.
Like, some of it's bullshit too. Like, some of it's like young people kind of like, as you said, we're saying, Stephen, people trying to sound really smart. But I feel like other characters, you can see from the looks on their faces, like kind of taking it, like you sound ridiculous right now. So there is some of that, like kind of like, yep, young people think they've seen it all, but
really vomiting something they read from somewhere. So,
exactly. But I think the movie knows that, and I think that's something I get the sort of the Gen X thing, but it's also like the movie kind of knows that some of this is garbage, and that these are young people. They're going to get older, and some of them will become assholes, and some of them will.
That's true. It's very interesting how you viewing it as a commentary on Gen X, because there's a lot of commentary on Gen X as being somewhat of a lost type of generation, or something of something like that. And I just find that, like, going back and looking at Slacker and even Richard Linklater being, even with Dazed and Confused, talking about that generation of people and whatnot, which is essentially my parents' generation, would be people who were in the high school in the 70s and whatnot. And then you've got Slacker, which is somewhat years later. It's very, very, very interesting.
Maybe the 80s will be radical, right?
Could be.
But that's an interesting pairing. I'm gonna have to once again investigate that one. I gotta Ham and Rye, I believe, is on Tubi.
It's on Canopy. I think it's on a few different things. So you can get to it for sure.
Yeah. If you don't want to buy the physical media, I think there's a way you can watch it somewhere to rent or something. So I think it might even be on YouTube to rent. So
it's on Tubi and Mubi.
Cool.
That's kind of funny.
All right. Well, we've made it down to Andrew. Please tell us the pairing with Love Streams.
Okay, so like I said before, I originally, had prepared this last month, so I'm sticking with it once again. I'm sticking with what I was going to pair this with before, although I had a few ideas I could have changed it up, but I had this pairing right away when the first time I watched it, and I'm going to stick with it. And I'm going to pair with Love Streams the movie The Skeleton Twins, which is the movie from 2014 starring Bill Hader and Kristen Wiig. And this is an indie film that is somewhat under the radar. It was a rather big hit at Sundance the year it came out. I believe it won for Best Screenplay at Sundance or some type of award for screenplay. And it is a really good screenplay. It's a tight 93-minute film. At the center of the film is, once again, similar to the center of Love Streams, is a brother-sister duo, obviously portrayed by Bill Hader and Kristen Wiig, and their tumultuous turmoil of a relationship, but also the chaos that's going on in their own lives and how it's affecting their relationship, and just how their lives have been affected by all of those things. And I thought this movie I saw it when it came out back in 2014. I've had this Blu-ray for quite a while, and I think this is just kind of a super underrated indie gem hit from like the last dozen years that I don't think a lot of people know about. I know people obviously know who Bill Hader and Kristen Wiig are from Saturday Night Live and the movies that they've been in. You know, Kristen Wiig was in Bridesmaids before this. That was a huge movie that, you know, really, you know, leveled up her career from just being on SNL to being in movies. Bill Hader has typically stuck with TV work. He had that show on HBO, Barry, which was really, really good, a big critical hit.
Yep.
Henry Winkler was in that show, but great acting in that show as well. But Bill Hader in this film, I think, is also really, really good. So for those of you who don't know the premise of the film, like I said, brother-sister duo, and at the very beginning of the movie, it's not a big spoiler here, Kristen Wiig, I tell you, this is a dark movie. It's going to get serious. So I just want to warn people, is pretty much on the verge of about to commit suicide. She is in the first scene of the movie. She has all the pills laid out. She's about to commit suicide. So right away, this movie sets up people with serious emotional mental health issues in this film. She gets a phone call from a hospital. She's the emergency contact for her brother, who has just attempted suicide. Right away, you have these two connecting brother-sister duo, like I said, heavy emotional mental health issues, both on a similar trajectory of, you know, life turmoil and problems and issues. And then the movie unfolds where Bill Hader comes to live with his sister, and you get kind of their background of what their childhood was like, what their relationship is like, why they become somewhat estranged over the last several years. You learn about all kinds of backstory with both of these characters and why they are making the poor decisions in their life that they're making now. And sometimes you don't know why. Like in this movie, Kristen Wiig cheats on her husband, seemingly for no real reason other than just to do it. And her husband in the movie is actually portrayed by Luke Wilson. Luke Wilson's in the film. For some reason, Owen Wilson popped in my head. Don't know why, but because they're brothers. But either way, you get all kinds of like, you know, the ins and outs of their relationship, the ins and outs of their personal lives. Super underrated movie dealing with, like I said, heavy thematic issues. Not only about familial relationships, which can be very messy in real life, in movies, in TV, in general, throughout the history of humankind. But you get not a lot of real answers to life's bigger questions, because sometimes there are not a lot of answers to those types of big life questions. You just kind of have to endure life as you go through it. But yeah, I've always really liked this movie. So if anybody listening out there, if you need an indie film and you're saying, hey, Hollywood doesn't make good movies anymore because you've just been watching big blockbusters for your whole life, check out an indie movie called The Skeleton Twins. May surprise you.
Wow.
I've not seen this. Yeah.
You really? Wow.
No,
yeah, neither have I.
It's a good one. Yeah. I think I saw this one in theaters. I might have my ticket stub somewhere. Yeah, I remember it being a surprise. Yeah. Because, I mean, these obviously, too, are known for being comedic actors on SNL. And this was kind of a weird kind of sidetrack for them to go off and do this indie, you know, kind of dark comedy drama thing. So, yeah, I remember really liking it. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and what's interesting is,
okay, Andrew again.
Yeah, I kind of went on a little rant there at the end, but like a lot of the indie films that are at like the Sundance film festivals and all these film festivals, they never get any marketing. So it's like people never hear about them until maybe they come to streaming and they see it and like, oh, I know who this person is. Maybe I'll give this a watch. Or if it comes to physical media, comes to Blu-ray and they see it, then they take it, or maybe they'll hear somebody talking about it. But a lot of the movies don't get a lot of marketing, even to this day. It's kind of odd. Yeah. Even if you have like bigger stars in an indie film, they still struggle to get attention.
Sure. Josh, go ahead.
Yeah, this is I was just going to say, this is a weird choice for Bill Hader and Kristen Wiig to do, having, like, they had both just left SNL at this point, I think, looking at the dates and stuff. So I'm very interested to watch this and kind of see what I think about it, because you're right, they're both very they're very well known for doing the craziest slapstick stuff you can think of. So seeing them dig a little deeper and do something a bit more human and realistic is probably going to be very interesting to watch.
My favorite work that they do together on SNL is the Californians. You guys ever see the Californians? Oh my God, I fucking love the Californians.
Where's that movie?
Yeah. God, dude, for real. They did that commercial. Did you see the commercial, the car commercial?
Yeah, for the VW Bug, the electric one.
Dude, I would pay twice to see a Californians movie.
Yeah.
I need like $25 a piece now where I'm at.
Oh yeah. I need more SNL movies in general. I love SNL. I watch it every week, but I need more in my life of these.
Unfortunately, it's not as good as it used to be, I have to say. I mean, I don't watch it all the time, but whenever I get a chance to peek in on some of the stuff, I'm like, what is this? Like, I don't know. It's lost some of its oomph.
Their style of humor has definitely shifted in the last 5 years or so. They brought on a lot of younger comedians. They do a lot more like gross out and surreal stuff now, but and I'm into it.
It's been pretty politically inclined as well, like way more politically inclined than it used to be.
Times we live in.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
Sure. Yeah. But Jesse, you got anything on this? I know you said you hadn't seen it.
Yeah, no, I've not seen it, but the only thing that came to mind was I caught up with The Savages a couple of years ago. It almost kind of reminds me of that just from the description. And if it's anything like that, it's right up my alley. It looks like it's pretty. It's Tubi, Canopy, and Hoopla. So yeah. Check this out. I'm going to check it out.
Awesome.
Canopy, another great reason to get a library card.
Yep. All right. Well,
bring us home.
I'll bring it home, guys. So like I said, this one was tough for me. I really had a hard time figuring out what angle I wanted to go with this film to feature it, because I'm typically always thematically inclined with when it comes to my pairings. I'm always thinking about what the movie's trying to say, and so I kind of hung my hat on this like thematic thing of like nature, like the harshness of nature, and all the things that come with that in this film, and so I wanted to find something that kind of played into that reality in similar but different ways. And I had to dive through the collection, just put, and as you can see, I have a whole shelf down over here with nothing on it. I just pulled all my movies down and just like, just looking for the right movie. And it hit me. I was like, this is a good one. Because I think that this pairing is also a movie that lives in a world where there's kind of like expectations of like how we're supposed to be and how all that stuff's kind of like you said, like there's comedy. This movie don't have comedy, trust me, not very little comedy, but it also points out at times how ridiculous the behavior it is, that these people have kind of been kind of like grown up, kind of legacy wise, have all kind of, the culture is like this, so this is how we're gonna be. The movie is Monsters Ball.
Oh,
from 2001, film that's about grief, about having like a culture of in this case racism. Billy Bob Thornton has lived in a family he's been brought up in that race. You got Heath Ledger that plays Billy Bob's son, and this really, I don't know that this is a spoiler. I mean, I don't know if do you think me saying what happens to Heath Ledger in this movie is a spoiler? Andrew?
I haven't seen the film.
It will be for me, a shameful blind spot for me. So, but you can do it. Just go for it. Let's talk about it.
Is there a way for you to skirt around it?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, I guess I could, but it's like, I think that the journey Billy Bob goes on has to do with with the relationship with his son.
Mm.
So it's kind of hard to talk about it without saying what happens. But like,
Josh, what do you think? Can we let Steven do it?
I think so. If you're okay with it, yeah.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
Well, I'm going to spoil this
You're
movie.
Spoiling a 25-year-old movie.
I'm going to spoil the 25-year-old movie. I'm not saying you should have watched it. I'm just saying, go ahead and say it. All right, here we go. So Heath Ledger kills himself very early in the film. They all work as corrections officers in the prison system. And at the very beginning of the film, they're about to put somebody to death, played by Sean Combs. Funny enough, he's in jail now, but they're going to be putting him to death, and you just get kind of some of that, like, and also this is a connection to the Ballad of Narayama. Is that there's this kind of like almost ritualisticness around death, in the sense of like the electric chair. There's a way you do it. If you don't do it right, you could mess it up. There's like now, but it's of course the context around why we do it is different than why they did it in Narayama, because they do it for survival. We do it because of some sort of like self-righteous, like we don't know what to do with people that are not, you know what I mean? Like we could put people, that's a whole other debate, whether we should kill people because they do bad things, or we should.
An even dumber tradition than the one that we see in Ballad of Narayama.
That's what I'm saying. Like, so they're both connective in that way. They're both commenting on how there's this social and like cultural thing that can happen sometimes where we do these things that are like so stupid, but it keeps getting brought down through generations and generations. And Billy Bob's character after Heath Ledger, which they have a terrible, tumultuous relationship that's influenced by Billy Bob's father, who's also in the movie and played by a pretty well. I'm trying to remember who's the actor. It's a well-known actor. I think it's Peter Boyle. I believe is the actor that plays him. But he's very racist. He brought his son up that way, and now Heath Ledger's kind of the outlier. He's the black sheep, and he can't take it anymore, and he kills himself right in front of his father and his grandfather. And then it's Billy Bob's like trying to figure out how to deal with that afterwards, and kind of takes himself down through kind of a redemption path. I'm not saying he's necessarily redeemed, but he kind of chooses to go down a more peaceful life. He quits his job. He does all these things, and then there's the Halle Berry character. This is the movie she won her Best Actress award for, and she's dealing with grief as well. Her son passes away, and now they're both people that have lost somebody, and they're coming from these two sides that are at odds in this place that they live in the South. They're in Georgia. And so obviously it's a controversial relationship. And so, yeah, there's a lot going on here that I think really parallels well with Narayama. So since you've seen it, does that sound fascinating? Do you think that that's a fascinating take, a double feature?
I would check it out. Yeah, I mean, that's
after I've spoiled the whole movie for you.
Oh, you didn't. I think movies in a way are kind of unspoilable. Like
I agree with you. I agree with you.
I could read exactly what happens, but it's how it's done. I don't want to know plot twist necessarily, but that's I think that sounds fascinating. I got to check it out. This feels like it's weird. Nobody I follow on Letterboxd has reviewed this movie. A lot of people have watched it, but not like nobody's reviewed it. It almost feels like it's from that, like, I don't know, a time when Oscar movies felt like Oscar movies in a way. And so I feel like it's kind of gotten lost in the sauce a bit. Like, Yeah, not one that's talked about as much as outside of like Halle Berry's historic Oscar win, of course.
Yeah, this was the debut film of Mark Forrester, who went on to do like what he did, Quantum of Solace, which is like one of the worst James Bond movies, and
Finding Neverland as well.
Christopher
Robin.
Yeah.
Oh, Stranger Than Fiction, which a lot of people like.
Stranger Than Fiction's not bad.
Yeah.
He did. Did he do the zombie movie, the Brad Pitt, or he was supposed to do that?
World War
movie.
Z.
He did. Yep, he did.
Yeah. So,
but no, I got to check out Monsters Ball. I like Billy Bob's good. He's
it's a
complicated Man too.
Yeah. This is a complicated movie for sure. I was wondering going into rewatching it whether it has aged well. Similar movies about racism or things, it's hard to know if they age well. Sometimes I'm like, I don't know. Do they go at the? And I think it kind of does. I don't know, but I think it handles it way more gracefully than a lot of other movies on the subject. But Andrew, you've seen the movie though, right?
It's good, but it is probably most well known for Halle Berry winning an Oscar, because I believe it was the first time ever I think an African American woman had won that for an Oscar for that role. Let me see if that was for best lead. Yeah, it was for best lead actress. So it was the first time ever. And Mark Forster is an interesting director because he's still making movies. He did the movie A Man Called Otto a couple of years ago, which starred Tom Hanks, and it was a remake of I forgot what the name of the original movie was. But it was a pretty decent, like 1-for-1 remake of a really, really good foreign film. Which
A Man Called Ove or something like that?
Yeah.
Or am I wrong about that? Yeah.
Yes. Because I remember I think it was based on a book as well. And I remember, and people are very, very skeptical of like English language made like remakes of foreign films, because you don't really have to do them, but sometimes you get really good ones, or you get decent ones that aren't bad. And A Man Called Otto, I thought was one of them. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Tom Hanks is such a good actor. He's made like really menial movies look much better than they are because he's so good. I completely forgot. He's kind of one of those directors I've completely forgot about, and for the most part. Stranger Than Fiction, I think, is underrated. If I remember correctly, isn't that the Will Ferrell film?
Yeah.
We were just talking about, two SNL actors who like you wouldn't expect them to be in a movie like that. And Stranger Than Fiction, I felt like was Will Ferrell's attempt at doing something different than what we had seen him do on SNL. We had seen him do all these crazy characters. Of course, he had then taken those characters, made those SNL movies like Night at the Roxbury and stuff like that. But I thought Stranger Than Fiction is kind of like a diamond in not the rough, because you either like Will Ferrell's work or you kind of don't. I know people who love him because they loved him on SNL. I know people who are just like sick of him doing the same old stuff over and over again. But Stranger Than Fiction, that was pretty good. I believe Maggie Gyllenhaal was in that movie as well. There's a great scene where I think he goes to like her bakery or whatever, and she hasn't paid like taxes in years, and she has this great riff as to like why she doesn't pay taxes. It's pretty good. But Monsters Ball is an interesting comparison because of this whole idea of like traditional ritualized execution, if you will, or death.
I mean, also just traditional behavior within a culture is kind of where I'm kind of hinting at about.
Yeah, and I feel like that's more of a deeper connection to the Ballad of Narayama, at least from the way that you've described it, because this idea of racism, there's been books and essays and theses written about this, that racism is a taught thing. Like, it's not innate. It's taught like from father to son or from parent to child, and then that child grows up, becomes a parent, teaches to their children, and that's how the cycle goes on and on. I think that has to do with any kind of prejudice, any kind of oppression, and stuff like that. It's kind of a taught thing, and it's been going on for generation. And like you're kind of saying with Ballad of Narayama, they've had this tradition where if you reach a certain age, it's kind of like Logan's Run. You got to go. You know what I mean? And there it is.
Even sex in Monsters Ball, which is, it's a kind of a well-known scene. It's a very explicit scene. It's the scene's not even, it's not necessarily played to be pleasurable. It's more like she specifically, Halle Berry's character is in so much grief that she doesn't want to feel that grief anymore. And it's not about having sex. It's about forgetting something.
Yeah. It's a sense of catharsis. If you will.
So the sex in both movies is not necessarily supposed to be tantalizing and pleasurable for you, but I would say it's played up more pleasurably in Monsters Ball than in Battle of Narayama, because that movie that nobody's having fun having sex in that movie.
In Ballad, well, I don't know.
I guess the one guy was.
Well, and the woman that he gets it with, she was like kind of at least surprised that it still worked.
Wow.
Yeah, she went back for thirds.
You know what really bugs me in that movie too? It's like, how are people just laying in hay and like it's not bothering their skin?
Hay is not comfortable.
It's not.
Well, that guy was like kind of like at the lowest rung of everybody in the village, pretty much.
All their skin's so rashed up they can't feel anything anyway. Yeah.
There's something similar that happens in Blood for Dracula, where Joe D'Alessandro's character gets with one of the daughters in a barn that he lives in. So yeah,
I don't get it. People just jumping in hay naked and stuff. You're like, what? What?
It's
almost as bad as sand. Yeah,
that we're kind of riffing on that, but it feels like Ballad and Narayama was kind of commenting on like humans will do that anywhere at any time, regardless of the conditions.
Yeah.
And that makes them very animalistic.
So the movies are kind of in a way similar, but also contrasting between nature and nurture, like how we nurture this behavior in Monsters Ball versus how nature, that's the behavior of nature. So like, I thought that was an interesting comparison.
It's kind of interesting how in Monsters Ball, to break that cycle of tradition or negative tradition, it took something as drastic as what Heath Ledger's character did to do that. It's a very, very interesting kind of commentary on that type of stuff.
Yep. But that brings us to an end. I brought it home, guys. We did it. The big episode. It's one of our biggest episodes of the Unwatched Pile. Guys, I appreciate you guys coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Happy to be here. Yeah, love doing it.
Well, we'll have to do it again someday, and get you on some of our other shows for sure. Guys, if you haven't heard about it yet, hear it here. Go check out the Blind Buys podcast. These guys got a good rapport together. They go back and forth. It's great. Just kind of like me and Andrew used to do all the time. We kind of used to do it. We just do it on this show now, and sometimes do it on some other stuff. But just brings me back. But guys, this was fun. Tell everybody where's the best place to find the podcast and all them things.
So we are streaming pretty much anywhere you get your podcasts. You could also follow us on Instagram at blindbuyspod, and we'll be posting about new episodes and all of that there as well.
Yeah, and we're both on Letterboxd. You can find us. I think there's links to us on Letterboxd from our the show landing page and notes and whatnot. And I at least maintain, we don't have a letterbox for the show. I don't know if we'll ever do that, but I maintain a list of stuff that we've watched under my profile in the past. So yeah, a lot of good stuff. And we try to, I'm at least trying to branch out a little bit more. I think most of my picks have been Criterion, but we got to hit some other labels. We go every 2 weeks. So it's not, we're still kind of hitting our stride, but yeah, we've got a decent little back catalog to work through at this point.
Fantastic, man.
Yeah.
Well, that's it for tonight, guys. We appreciate everybody that's jumped in live with us. Of course, if you can't be here live, go to check it out on the replay on YouTube or the audio edition. That'll be on our feed probably tomorrow. So thanks everybody. And what are you still doing here? Go to your movie collection. Just stop. Just watch movies.